a bit more. So I'm going to start now because I can't wait. I think I've got too much to do. All right, going live in... All right, welcome back. We are Game 2014 in the fall 2020 semester, and it's week 9, part 1 of our broadcast at George Brown, and we're talking about assignment 2 details in a second. First, let's talk about where we are. We're sitting at week 9. Today, I've officially released assignment 2 part 1 and 2, and there's a reason why I wanted to release both, because this way you can finish at your own time, is what I like to try and say. I think there's a lot going on this second half of semester for you, and I want to give you a chance to finish early if you have the time to do it, or at least know what's on the horizon and when everything is due. So that's kind of where I'm going with that. Today we're going to be talking about a couple things. One thing is a bit of design. I know that we've been hitting design patterns, which is like kind of programming patterns, and we've also hit design as in game design. Today is a game design day, and I want to talk about a few things. The 3 C's, which is character, camera, and controls, as well as the nuts and bolts of platformer mechanics. So and then we'll do a bit of a Unity demo. I have to be preemptive to start you guys going, so we make the most of our time today. Please take a look at online. I have a Lab 6 starter that's online that you can download and get going with ahead of time. I have to warn you that for the most part, I had a bit of a power supply problem over the last week or so. My brand new system, my Corsair AX1200i power supply, just decided not to work. It kept on restarting, so I had to buy another one and replaced it. And long story short, I was in the middle of Unity when my computer died, and when I did that, it killed my install for Unity 2020 1.3F1. So I've upgraded my project to 2020.1.10F1. Which may present a problem for some of you if you have a previous version of Unity installed that's not compatible with it. So please download the starter. If it asks you to upgrade, or if you need to upgrade your Unity, now's the time while I'm talking about the assignment details and other things before we get into the lab section of the class today. All right, so I'd ask you to try and do that ahead of time. Lab 6 starter is up. Lab 6 also has a bunch of packages that I've downloaded and installed into it for you to start us off on the right path to do platforming. And you may find some of them interesting, some of them might be things you want to remove, but you can certainly use this lab with some things stripped away as a good starter point for you to start going. One thing you're going to have to do is get your own assets, because that's part of the exercise. But beyond that, what I'm asking for is for you to at least use this as a starting point for understanding what we're doing. All right, so that is what we're doing here. What I'm going to be doing now is talking about assignment 2, part 1. So let's get to that. So there's 2 parts again. I've broken this down into 2 parts for a couple reasons. This is due Friday, should say actually Friday, November the 20th. I don't know why it said due there. Friday, November the 20th, 2020 at midnight. It's for 10% of your grade, and it's fairly much the same as the last one in terms of structure, right? So you're making a 2D platformer instead of a 2D arcade game. The difference is what you're going to be doing with it. You're going to be using physics. So in this case, you must use physics for this particular project. The first half, which is part 1, is just your user interface and your plan again. And you're going to see that this is a pattern that I'm using. When I build for mobile, I always do the user interface of my plan first, and then I add code. And the reason for this is because if I'm building a larger project, I want to collect all my assets, I want to lay out my level, I want to plan what I'm doing, and all those kind of things ahead of time, so that way I know what I need to do, as opposed to randomly trying to figure things out with putting everything together. It also gives you a little bit more time. So I've given you several weeks. So this is from November 20th till now. You can see that we're 2.5 weeks out in terms of your due date. So you have some time to get this done. I don't think this is a difficult assignment. If you've already done assignment 1, part 1, this is very similar. However, there is something I'm going to ask you guys to do that is different. And if you scroll down, there's a section in here on 1F where it says your game must include platforms of some sort placed at various elevations in your game world. Player's avatar will be able to move onto or over these platforms with the use of jumping, falling, bouncing, spinning, swinging, or some other movement mechanic. For this assignment part, you should place these platforms in the desired locations in your game world. So this is just like you getting the platforms and placing them. Now, here's where here's the twist. You must choose at least 3 other platform mechanics as detailed in the platform primer section of your class notes, and I'll talk about what those are. This may include, but is not limited to, platforms that float, move horizontally or vertically, flip, explode, tilt, bounce, tip, collapse, swing, grow, whatever. For this assignment part, you should place these special platforms in the desired locations in your game. So that's kind of the second part. So these are new pieces to what you're building. Okay. When we scroll down, the rest is very similar. When we scroll down, you're also going to notice inside of your game design document, it's been pared down a little bit. Again, I'm looking for wireframes. Some of you decided not to do wireframes at all for your first assignment 1, part 1 or part 2. And in your screen descriptions, some of you decided not to take any kind of screenshots at all. So there's some marks lost that were really easy in my opinion. But again, everyone has their time, and I understand everyone has different reasons for doing what they do. So from a game world perspective, this is where it changes. I'm looking for details about the 3 platform mechanics you have selected from the platform primers. So what is this platform primer I speak of? You'll see in a second. For the most part, this one remains the same. There's nothing else that's really that odd in terms of making what you're making. You're making a 2D platformer with Unity. All right, so it's not that crazy. The video's there. All that other stuff is there. And notice that the weighting is 63 marks out of 100 for the UI, and the rest is the external documentation, the version control, presentation, and some small amount of internal documentation just to put your header, your name, and your student ID inside the code. That's it.
I'm sorry, Tom. We only see your slide screen right now.
How's that? Thank you for that. Like I said, let's go back to that. Well, at least it's being recorded, Michael. Thank you for that. But yes, so what I meant was that this is the same project. You'll see that it's the same exact thing. The only thing that's different is here, like I said, in F and G, where in F and G you can see that there is these 2 areas that talk about the platform details. Okay, so that really is what I'm asking for. So this really weird thing is this platform primer thing. What is this platform primer I speak of? I'll talk about this in a second. Okay, so this is due, like we said before, earlier, this is due Friday, November 20th, 2020 at midnight, which gives you 2.5 weeks. All right, that's this one. Let's talk about...
I have a question. Can I ask a question, or do you want me to wait until it's question time?
Would you mind waiting? Because I might answer your question.
I'll wait.
Okay, yeah. Here's part 2. So part 1 is your plan and your user interface, and part 2 is your programming part. So again, very similar to what we did before. You have an instruction screen, you have different kind of entry and all that kind of stuff to play your game, different music, different assets, and then the thing that's changed is if you scroll down, it says you must include platforms, and you have to write the code, right, to make sure that enable rigid body physics for collision detection and response using the Unity game engine. So that way you can fall, jump, and whatever. At the same time, there's going to be these 3 other mechanics that I'm talking about that we're going to look at in a second that are part of the platform primer that allow you to do 3 different effects, and you have to write the code for those 2. This one is due week 14, which is Friday, December the 11th, 2020 at midnight. Again, if you look at the time frame, we're looking at several weeks now, so it's like 5.5 weeks approximately for you to complete this thing. So it should give you a lot of time. Kat, ask your question now.
My question is, and I don't want to rush you, but do you know if you might be marking the other assignments in the next week or so? Because
I'd like
I
to.
don't know if I did too much, and if I did, I want to know about it, because I really did a lot, and it felt a lot, and I don't want to do all that again.
Okay. Or worst case, Kat, what we can do is, like I've said to other people, is I'd like to get your stuff done as soon as possible. My plan was to get it all done Sunday. I got through some of it, and some of it takes a little longer than others, and I want to release it at once. So that's why I've waited. But I will, if you're concerned, again, I can try and get it done as fast as possible. I'll prioritize for you.
It's not that I'm concerned I haven't done well, but I'm concerned that I felt like I spent a long time making documentation, and I feel like if I did too much, I want to save the time for the next 2 weeks.
I don't think
things are getting crazy.
Yeah, well, that's why I'm telling you that. I'm giving you more time. But let's hear from. I mean, I know Russell did when I was looking at Russell's work. Russ, if you want to kind of chime in there in terms of the amount of documentation you put in for your game design document. I'm not sure if he's got capability, but not as much as Kat.
I'll ask him how much he did.
Yeah, and I know that, you know what, I think you can be as detailed or as slim. Some people go really, really slim with the documentation, do the bare minimum. My recommendation to you, Kat, is there's nothing that can. It's not going to be bad for what you did, but going to what you said, I also don't want you to spend an inordinate length of time. So if you think about this, if this thing is worth the first part, if it's worth 10%, my thinking over the 2-week period that you have to get the first part done, 1%, 1 hour max. So that means if you spend 10 hours on this thing max, just to get the assets, put it together, all that kind of stuff, that should be in your mind. That should be your time frame, your limit. If you go beyond 10 hours total project time, you're probably putting too much. I'm just trying to gauge it for you, right? If in the second one, notice there's another 15%. So that means there's going to be probably some hours, maximum, I'm saying, another 15 hours. So the total project would take 25 hours over the next 5 weeks, which is roughly max 5 hours per week. I wouldn't, if you went beyond that, then I think that would be way above and beyond. Okay? And that should probably...
That sounds reasonable.
Yeah. And I think that's how it is. I don't think... I would never want you guys to spend... I know there's some professors that, give you an assignment worth 5% and it'll take you 50 hours to do. That's not what I intend here at all, right? However, it's what you put into it kind of stuff too, right? I mean, if you... The more you do this kind of stuff, the better you are at doing game design documents. I think it's a good thing. Because then it's a communication tool more than anything else. You don't know where you're going to land, is what I'm saying. You don't know what role you're going to have in a game jam or in another scenario. Chances are you're probably not going to be game designers. But it doesn't matter. That you should understand what a game design document looks like and be able to deal with it. And up until now, I can tell you that there's some people that I've spoken to that even up to third year haven't really dealt with game design documents so much because they've always had someone else do it, right? So... it's totally fine that that you guys are spending time on it. But again, I also want to respect your time. Let's go back. So this thing, so both of these two things are due Friday. The very latest date for this one would be Friday, December the 11th. I think it gives you a lot of time, and the other one is due November 20th. So between the two things, I think it's fairly doable. With what you've got going on right now. Again, I booked it on a Friday, knowing that if you need additional time of a day or two, and if there's in my mind, I'm kind of being preemptive. Maybe I shouldn't be telling you this, but I'm always trying to figure out, how can I help the students out when it comes to their submission, right? So, because again, I know what it's like to be a student, and I don't want, on one hand, I want to give you a date to target. On the other hand, with this stuff, when it comes to game, and you're developing 2 full games for me pretty much this semester, I don't want to kill you. There's some creativity involved, and sometimes you have other projects. Let me take that back. You always have other projects that you're doing, and I want to be able to be flexible enough for you guys so you can have some level of fun when you're making this stuff. Well, I don't mean to do that. I want to just try and make it so that your experience with me in my course is a good one. That's all I care about, right? I mean, if you can learn stuff and you have a good time, then that's part of it. If you have a bad time, that's bad, right? So anyway, so this is where we're going with this. Any questions around assignment 2 part 1 and part 2? They are due in the second half. I want to also specify that what's going to happen in the second half, just before we end this talk, and I'll stop recording this one, is there's going to be a mid test, kind of like a mid second half of semester test, which is going to happen around week 12. This will be a true false multiple choice type test. It'll be the same format that we had before in the first test, where you'll get it for the entire week, and it'll cover the design theory and design patterns that we've covered up until week 12, and it'll be the last theoretical thing you're going to get from me. Next semester, when we go into mobile game development part 2, I'm probably going to be doing that with you too. It's going to be all 3D, more AI, and there'll be a project that's going to be semester long. All right, so something that's going to be a little bit more meaty. Let's just put it that way. It'll still be on mobile, but you'll be doing it in 3D. So there'll be a lot more to do. You won't see as much. This is all foundational stuff, so you're getting like foundations of design patterns and design and all that kind of stuff. By next semester, I'm building up to what's going to happen for next semester for you, which means you could have a pretty cool project that you're kind of putting out next semester. Okay, but for this semester, let's finish this part off. So we have this part today, and then by the end of semester, we're going to have a practical test again, just like we did in our midterm test. So the practical test will run all week. There will be no lab or lecture that week. It'll be more like I'll be here for office hours and to help you guys out, all that kind of stuff as normal. And I'll give you some time during this period if you really wanted to work on your project. It'll be, again, a little project. You'll start off with a starter, chances are, and then you'll have to do something similar to what we did in the mid-semester test. Most of you did very, very well. I saw it, and I don't think there's many of you who had a problem with it, although there's always a couple. Okay, any questions for me about assignment 2 at all before I stop recording this session and move on to the next part? Okay, let's stop recording this then, and then we will start in the next video with the design stuff.